I'm also Harry the alley cat who eats garbage in the garbage can down the street. I'm also Herman the mailman who delivers to the Arbuckle house, but that cat! And I've been barking and slurping Odie since there was an animated Garfield. I do some of the Eeyore for Disney. I'm allowed to hang around the 100-acre wood and look for my tail, which probably fell off again. In the same vein, I was a corn-fed pig on Duckman. I was Agent K on the animated Men in Black. Shoot 'em, Jays, the cerebral facaloid, the brains are in their bottoms, you know where to aim. And I get around and
Something obscure.
Oh yeah, something obscure. I do table reads and records as Sideshow Bob on The Simpsons. I'm available as an understudy for Kelsey when he's not available, and it allows me to show up there for table reads and records and be invited to the parties and have a great time.
Greg, tell them a commercial, a recent commercial you had on the air.
Well, I get to let my Ozark out. I'm from the Midwest, from Missouri, and hey, you got a ride home. My kids will. And I get to say Wrangler, real comfortable jeans.
You actually wear Wrangler jeans.
I actually wear them. I'm not just a member of the hair club. Oh, no, that's it.
Julie, tell us about what you've been doing lately.
Well, let's see. One of the first animation jobs I had was a show, I don't know if you remember, called The Zeta Project, which was a spin-off of Batman Beyond, and I played Ro. So, hey, if I knew this conversation was going to be so riveting, I'd have bought a book. And during that time, I did some great guest spots on Johnny Bravo and the Powerpuff Girls, where I played Robin Schneider. And the Powerpuff Girls are my best friends, but they're always leaving me to go save the day. And I also, in the Final Fantasy series 13-2 and Lightning Returns, you're either happy or sad to hear that I played Chocolina. And she goes a little something like this: Chocobocolina! The beauty's all mine, but the products can be yours if only you'll show me the money. And in the Skylander series, I played Chill. Stay cool. And in StarCraft 2, I am your medic. If I do this wrong, it'll hurt a little. If I do it right, it'll hurt a lot. And in Guild Wars 2, I played lots of different races, a Sora and humans and a Quaggan. Cool. So those are some credits, old and new.
Okay, tell us something obscure, some commercial you did, some
commercial. Okay, so for about 2 years, I had a pretty amazing retail account. So I got to do, so they're laughing. You want the retail account, okay? So for about 2 years, I was the price and item voice for a lot of Albertson stores and Acme and Cub and Jewel Osco. So a little something like this. Shop at your neighborhood Albertsons through Tuesday for low prices with your preferred savings card. Right now, 1 pound packages of sweet ripe strawberries are just 2 for $5.
At those stores because of her.
You're welcome.
Yeah, very good.
Thanks.
John, you're up.
Yes, thank you, Senator. Well, let's see. For some of you, I guess, animation historians, there used to be a place called Hanna-Barbera. I don't know if you've heard of it. Really? Let's Google Hanna-Barbera. Well, after Dawes Butler passed away, God bless, there were a myriad of us who had to fill his shoes. So there was a character called Wally Gator, don't you know? So I did him, you see, because I had to fill in for Dawes because he was bye-bye. So I had to, you know, I was with a whole bunch of other guys. I got a chance to do that, and then I do a lot of video games too. I've done everything. I've done everything, from The Sopranos to Scarface to Desperate Housewives. I'm kind of, there's a voice that I do kind of now that gets recognized. Burgess Meredith. I don't know if you ever heard of Burgess Meredith. He was the trainer in Rocky, you see. He was the guy that turned that greasy Italian tank into a mother whore, if you know what I'm saying. And then I did a series called Animaniacs. I did a series called Animaniacs back in the day, and there was a section called Goodfellas. Yeah, it was based on the Goodfellas movie, right? And I played the character called Bobby, and Bobby was based on.
Kennedy? Bobby Flay?
No. It's coming to me. Hold on. It's gone. Next.
Okay.
Oh, anyone obscure thing? Obscure. You want something obscure? Okay. Come to my house. Something obscure. Okay, this goes back to the late 80s, early 90s. There was a show called Baby Talk. Now I got a ride home. There was a show called Baby Talk, which was based on the movie Look Who's Talking with Charles Travolta. So it was based on that movie, and it starred George Clooney. Yes, I work with George. And the baby, the voice of the... And as I was saying to George the other day, as he was at my house, 4333 Stern Avenue, Sherman Oaks, 423, bury a curdy, Winnie. And collect. It was the voice of the baby, which was to be done by Tony Danza at the time. And Tony Danza was doing, "Who's the boss?" So I had to fill in for him doing the voice of the baby for this show called Look Who's Talking, which is basically, "Angela, I'm a king, change me." And that's pretty obscure, but it's something nice to share with the group. Ms. Montano.
Yes, I guess first thing that comes to mind is Katana from Beware the Batman. So, what do you know about Batman? Sorry, still not. That's one of the lines I said to Alfred one day. And then, let's see, most people probably know me as RC from Transformers Prime. Which sounds kind of similar to my talking voice. Primes don't party. A bunch of video games. Enchantress from Diablo 3. Something that just, not too recently, not too long ago, Dragon Age Inquisition. And a whole bunch of things, but I'm not remembering them right now. You probably know them more than I do. But I know, IMDb.
You got your phone right there.
I know, I should look it up. Skylanders, I play Callie in that franchise, if any of you are familiar with that. I have a lot of scenes with Patrick Warburton as Flint, and a lot of times I'm constantly, like they have to actually say in my lines when I'm actually saying something sincere to Flynn, because almost always I'm being completely snarky with him. You know, I'm like, really? Again, Flynn? Come on, get it together. And one obscure thing, all the roles, lots of roles that we've done are obscure. I'd say, in Call of Duty, Ghosts, Oh yeah, you know that.
Well, I was in Call of Duty 2.
I don't know where. I assume it made it, but because they asked us to do multiple roles when we go in, and so one day they were like, "Okay, we need." Oh, I played one of the playable female soldiers, and then one day I went in and they're like, "Can you do a little boy? Like his house is like burning down, and he's trying to escape, and he sees his mother off, and he's like trying to." So I was like, "Oh my God, this is so serious." And so I did something like, "Mom, help! Come get me, please! Please, please!"
My baby! Okay, Mr. Charles.
Let's see, Mr. Nesmith on Planet Sheen. Because when you speak with an English accent, you're smarter than everyone else, and Sheen is quite the dolt. I am the narrator for Winnie the Pooh from time to time for Disney. This could be the room of any small boy, but it just so happens to belong to a boy named Christopher Robin.
You sound like Sebastian Stan.
Pardon me, Sissy, but I believe Buffy and Jodie are in the other room. Never mind. If you go over to Disneyland and go through the Indiana Jones ride, you will hear, "Welcome, my friends, to the Indiana Jones adventure." Please keep your feet, hands, legs, and arms inside the transport, okie dokie. Have a look into the eye of the idol. Thank you, John Rhys Davies, for not being available. He was working on a little picture named Lord of the Rings or something like that. I have done lots of roles on little things here and there, but something very obscure that I did. Some may know, some may not. I got to sneeze in Ray Romano's face. Because I do the voice of Sneezy for Disney. And you know what I for I went in and did an audition for Debbie Miller Katz, who was the casting director for Everybody Loves Raymond. They liked me, got a call back, went in, did it for Phil Rosenthal and 2 writers on the show. I got hired to go in and do it. And during the table read, they kept telling me, "We're going to ask Ray to sit right next to you, so we can feel the full impact of what we did in the audition." And I said, "Okay, but stay where you are, because he may not agree to this." He comes down onto the stage last after everybody's sitting around the table for the read. And Phil Rosenthal and one of the guys who was a writer that was in the room, they start talking about it and start gesturing toward me. "I see Ray doing this." So I knew I was going to sit right where I was. We start reading the thing, and all I do is come up to him after I've washed my hands, and I turn around. He's come out of a bathroom stall, and he sets his luggage down. As he stands up, I go, and then I'm doing this number, and I look up and I see him, and I go, "Oh, I'm so sorry." He literally backs up 10 feet. He did the same thing in the rehearsal. Everybody is laughing incredibly loud. Ray is just going, "Oh dear God, what have they got me into this week?" That's what I did. Yes, I'm also Man Ray on SpongeBob. Because once again, John Rhys Davies wasn't available, thank you. "SpongeBob, come here quickly. I need the dirty bubble to get with you and float over and get Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy."
That was very well done. Okay, I'm Kathy Garber, and I guess I'm most well known in the voiceover world for having played Firestar in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. As well as her alter ego, Angelica Jones. I teach voiceover and how to develop characters, and so I tell a lot of my students, well, you have to use the mic. So if you're playing a heroine, you talk down into the mic because you're mighty. If you're playing a regular character, you say, "Hi, how are you?" if you're playing a little voice, you look up into the mic and pretend there's a big person up there, and the mic gets the little voice that you're doing. So the mic is usually a friend. And I also played the voice of Pepper, an automotive whiz in Chuck Norris Karate Commando, and he taught me to break a board. Really hurt my hand. And then I was Dixie in Dixie's Diner, and that was a real nice show. I really loved that. And then for a video game, I played Madame Theobald in Sins of Our Father. However, I was reading this, and it says, please be aware that many members of your audience may be under 18 years of age, so I keep it clean for all of you. But Madame did have some very interesting tales to tell. Oh, and for obscurity, well, you know, from that dreaded ex-child syndrome, when I was just a little girl, I did a commercial. Jams and jellies, jellies and jams. I love jellies and I love jams. Jams and jellies, jellies and jams. I love curtains, jellies and jams. And now, since I'm of a certain age, just last month I did a commercial for Wells Fargo where I played a granny. Oh, here, would you please do a chore for me, honey? Here's a quarter for you. And then the Wells Fargo announcer comes on, someone with a lovely voice like his, and they say, well, you don't have to get a quarter from your granny. You can really make some money. Ah, snap. And that has been my voiceover. A little inkling of some of the voices that I have done.
Ask each member of the panel, this is one of my stock questions, but it's always interesting. I would like to ask you to tell me about someone you were fascinated and proud to work with in a session. You walked into the session and you suddenly discovered that the mic across from you was, Greg?
Mel Blanc. Could have.
Tell me about the first session you did. Who was in that session?
Well, this was actually when they had brought back in that time it was the new Jetsons episodes. So I was playing a character who had a blind date with Judy Jetson. So everybody was in the room, and Mel was seated on one side of me, and Howie Morris was seated on the other side. Howie, who became a great friend in later years, we did U.S. Acres together. But Mel fell asleep during the session, and for as veteran a personage as he is, he was entitled to do whatever happened. Anyway, he fell asleep. Gordon Hunt, who told me before the session started that he knew where he was seating me, and it wasn't an accident. I was very new. I was very young and green in my voiceover career, and he said, no one's throwing you a bone here. You're in this room because you're supposed to be here. He introduced me to the cast as what he considered one of the new kids in that time. At any rate, so Mel was asleep, and I heard Gordon try to rouse Mel from the directing booth. He said, Mel, and I heard Mel Blanc wake up as Mr. Spacely. The last one was, Mel Jetson! Some things you remember for the rest of your life, not only being in the room with so much greatness from that cast, but that particular event.
Julie, tell us somebody else that you worked with.
Well, you mentioned Spider-Man when you introduced me, so as there have been many iterations of the Spider-Man canon. MTV also did a Spider-Man series, which I was lucky to be a part of, and when I walked in, lo and behold, Neil Patrick Harris was playing Peter Parker. And Lisa Loeb was playing Mary Jane, and Ian Ziering was also in the cast, and it was really wonderful, and I remember walking in and being like, oh, hey, What's up, Neil? How you doing? I'm cool. I'm in the business. You're not awesome or anything, but it was a really wonderful. Just a wonderful experience.
Did he do a number?
I'm sorry.
Did he do a
a number? No.
Okay.
I really want to lie and say yes, but I am a person of integrity.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
And above 18.
And above 18, yes. I'll tell you the story later.
John, tell us something you worked with you were real proud to share a microphone with.
Well, when I was working with George Clooney,
Oh,
it's gonna be a long night, folks.
I don't know, comedies in threes, that's my third.
Actually, Paul Winchell. Paul Winchell, once again, it's when I was working at Hanna-Barbera, and I walked into the room, and there was basically almost every voice that I grew up with. I mean, Paul Winchell and Don Messick and Alan Melville and a few other those guys, and I was in their circle, and I was terrified. It was like, because it's like, this is where you're the people that, when I listened to you, you're the people. I'm not you guys are them. I really like to hold me. No, but it was like, it's a weird business when you grow up listening to people, and that was my window to the world, and then you find yourself in the same proximity and working, and now you're a comrade and a fellow worker, and it's for me, and it still is, it's pretty overwhelming. Sometimes I'll walk into a room and I'll oh my God, but hello. You try and put on that cool thing. It's like, yeah, okay, I didn't wear my pants. Hi, how are you? No, it's all good. We're just working together, just guys. But inside you're like doing this. But I would say, yeah, Paul Winchell, Don Messick, Alan Melville, those guys that I worked with.
What's really intimidating is when you have to direct those people.
Oh.
I actually had to direct Mel Blanc one time, and I had to give him a line reading on What's Up, Doc. It's too slow. Anyway.
That ain't it, kid.
Yeah. Somali?
For me, it was Transformers Prime, and I would say if I had to pick one person in the cast, I mean, everybody knows Peter Cullen and Frank Welker, and Sue Blue, who directed, and I literally walked in the room and I was like, okay, be cool. What I didn't know is when I sat down for the first script reading, I sat down next to Kevin Michael Richardson. I didn't know who he was. It was my first, I was so green. And I sat down and I had my little sushi lunch because I hadn't eaten lunch yet. And I sat there and he sat down next to me and then I was like, oh, and he said he was hungry. So, would you like some of my sushi? Yeah, I was like literally just like, would you like some sushi? And he just looked at me really sweetly and nicely. I had no idea who he was. And then we started reading, and then he plays Bulkhead. So I start, and then Bulk opens his mouth, and he's just like, boom! And I'm like, oh, And we just, we developed this wonderful friendship, and in the way we sat, he always sat next to me. So it was always, and it was nice because in the story, it was RC and Bulkhead, were really good friends, and he always sat next to me, and oh my gosh, how much he made me crack up during sessions. I mean, it was just crazy. And like every little thing in between takes. And I'd always feel bad for the guests who would come and visit because the guests would be on the other side of the glass. But all the funny antics, between, Frank and Peter and Steve Bloom and, Kevin Michael Richardson, Darren, like everybody was just like making jokes left and right. And I was like, I wish they could be in here to hear all of it. But yeah, Kevin Michael Richardson kind of holds a special place in my heart.
I've had a few people, but probably in one of my earliest sessions, I was on Jackie Chan Adventures, and it was about the fourth time in, and there were two people, one person who was a recurring member, or both of them were recurring cast members. Julian Sands was sitting there, amazing British actor. But the one who really got my attention was Clancy Brown. Clancy and I had just met in the waiting room at Salami just before that. We got sent in.
You need to explain that salami is a studio.
Salami.
Mommy studio.
It's also a
Like
fine cured meat.
True on both counts. So, just before we were going in, Sue Blue, the voice director, says to Julian, we have another role for you besides Valmont, the villain. We want you to do this British Museum curator. And he said, oh, I see, all right, okay. So, we go in, and the opening scene is with Julian and the young man who was doing Jackie's voice. And we do it, and I'm listening to it, and I'm going, yeah, that sounds like an officious British Museum curator. So then we get to his first scene as Valmont, the villain, and it was the exact same voice. And those things happen. So we go on with it. At the end of Act 2, Julian was done. They were going to let him go. They wanted to check and make sure everything was, okay. So they had all of his stuff. They excused him, and he left. We get to Act 3, and Clancy has a couple of lines at the end of Act 3, and that's all he's got. So we do those first before, we start at the beginning of Act 3. And when they're done with Clancy, they say, hold on, we're going to check and see we've got everything of yours. They check, and they say, okay, it's all right. And he said, I don't know why you bothered. You could have just had Bob do it when I left. Because they had turned to me after Julian left and said, Bob, we need you to redo the museum curator. I told the story poorly. I'm very sorry.
I like it, Bob.
It was out of order, but Julian Sands and Clancy Brown, two amazing actors, and the other one was Frank Welker when I sat next to him doing Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost. Absolutely amazing to sit next to that man, and if there's something, there's dead space, all of a sudden you start hearing, I'm Marley Safer. I'm Mike Wallace. You swear there was a stopwatch on somebody's mic somewhere. It was all Frank. He's amazing, and still is to this day, and will always be.
He would always make electrical shock sounds on
Oh, yes.
Prime, and it would always, like somebody would touch their mic, and out of the corner you'd hear like that, but he would do it so much better than me. And it sounded so real, and so everyone would just jump like, ah.
I always thought that the kids who sat behind Frank in school didn't learn a damn thing.
There were no kids behind Frank in school.
Daphne, tell me something funny.
Well, I'm going to have to say Frank Welker, of course. For those of you who don't know Frank, of course you might not know what he looks like, but you might not even know his voice because he can do like 200 voices. Every dog, cat, horse, donkey that you have ever heard on a movie, on a TV series, well, that's Frank, but he does it much better than I do, and he can do all breeds of dogs, etc., etc. So when Stan Lee was trying to cast Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, which was one of the first iterations of Spider-Man, and taking this, his idea, making a superhero. Ladies, this was one of the first times that there was a superheroine in Firestar, and then they started making different images of her. She even got her own comic book. But it was Frank being Iceman, and then hunting for the perfect Spider-Man, who turned out to be Dan Gilbazan. Somebody else was cast, and then we started recording with somebody else. They came back to Dan, who is also a wonderful voiceover performer. Did Transformers, and he was Spider-Man, and he is still working along with Frank. See, it's great about being a voiceover actor, because no matter how old you are, you can play as young as you want. And I played Miss America one time in The Adventures of Spider-Man, another thing. And so I really don't look like Miss America, but you can play anyone. Like Anya. But Frank Welker and my true uncle on my TV series Family Affair, Brian Keith, was also in An Adventures of Spider-Man. So that was wonderful to have somebody across from me that I knew so well. And also, we used to always record as a group. So many times now, you record alone, and then they will just put you together. You were on a computer screen reading your things instead of paper and looking at somebody. Well, that's a whole nother panel and a whole nother story. Frank Welker, Efren Zimbalist Jr., Ron Howard, when we did Happy Days, who gave such an accolade to voiceover. People said, I don't know how you do. Well, hey, you could do Ron Howard's voice, but I don't know how you voiceover people do all those voices, and you're just great. And I said, well, thank you, Ron. You're not too bad yourself. But those are my people,
Good,
Mark.
good selection. Thank you, Kathy. We're going to show you what these people do. We're going to do what's called a cold reading. They have not seen this script before.
Wait, what?
Yes.
For my glasses.
Yes. Anyway, I'm going to assign roles to this. We have here a very boring script that is the story of Cinderella. And we're going to assign the roles here. And by the way, John and Bob, you get to be the ugly stepsisters. All right? Pass the pencils down. Greg, you're going to play the prince and person number 3. There's a list. I wrote it out.
Ugly stepsisters, huh?
On that. Julie, you're going to be the evil stepmother and the fairy godmother.
All right.
All right. John, you are going to be Harold number 1, Faversham, the ugly sister number 2, person number 5.
I'm so good at person number 5.
He's the best I've ever.
Man down.
Congratulations, you are Cinderella.
Woo!
Person number 2.
What am I, the slipper?
You are the ugly sister number 1, Harold number 2, the knave, and person number 1. And Kathy, you are the narrator of this entire story.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, and I will give you some special direction in a moment here.
Am I also person number 4?
Yes, you are. You're right. Person number
Okay.
4.
All right.
Kathy, what I want you to do when you're reading this is I want you to start. Kathy, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. I want you to start reading this with your sweetest, most enchanted fairy tale voice and morph over the entire run to your nastiest, most sinister voice. just pace yourself out and just get nasty, a little nastier with each line as you go.
Okay.
Now, while we're giving them not enough time to mark their scripts, I want to mention we have a couple of other very fine voice actors in the audience at the moment. And there's probably more than I know here, but there's a gentleman down here someplace who was on the Mad TV show, Mr. Arif Eskinchin. Another gentleman in the audience, half these people were on Transformers, Prime, and Spider-Man and Skylanders. David Sobolov is here somewhere. And I think one of the most brilliant jobs of voiceover I have seen in the last 10 years was the voice on the Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson of Jeffrey Peterson, the gay robot skeleton, Mr. Josh Robert Thompson. Now, the cast has not seen this script before, this is not the way it's usually done. This is the way we do it for entertainment at conventions. They're going to read the lines. I may or may not interrupt as director and give them another idea of how to go with the character, or I may let them go. And if at some point you feel that you don't like the voice you're doing, just change it. It doesn't matter. You're not getting paid for this anyway. We're not going to get it.
Wait, what?
Please talk to my agent.
SAG after one union.
When you get your lines all circled, we will start. And you do not have to stick to the lines anyway. It's the only time I ever tell actors that. All right? Are we ready? No? Good.
I'm ready.
All right? We're going to start anyway.
Oh, sure.
Kathy, would you start with the
I'll
story
wait
of
till you're-
Cinderella with your sweetest possible voice?
Okay. Are we all ready?
Yes.
Voice team, do you have them circled?
Yes, teacher.
Okay. Very good.
Very exciting.
Once upon a time, there was a young girl named Cinderella who lived with her stepmother and 3 ugly stepsisters. Every morning, the stepmother and stepsisters would wake up and order Cinderella around.
What's taking so long, Cinderella? I want my breakfast. I'm hungry.
Oh, sister!
for?
It's just that I thought, that is, may I go to the ball too?
You? That's a really funny one.
Yes, too funny! Shut up! Of course you may go.
What?
Mother, how could
What? You can't do that, Mother.
you may go if you finish all your chores, and if you help your sisters get ready, and if you can find some decent clothes to wear. My goodness, what color is that?
Chocolate
And
gray.
you will not wear your rags.
Well, I guess I won't be going.
Oh well.
So, the night of the ball arrived, and Cinderella was forced to help her evil stepmother and ugly stepsisters get ready for the big party.
Where is my dress?
And where are my shoes?
And where is my purse?
Here's your shoes, Prunella, and here's your purse, Grisella.
They're all set. Ah, too bad, Cinderella. I'm not sad. I guess you didn't get your chores done in time. You can stay here. Oh, and you can scrub the kitchen floors.
And so after they left for the ball, Cinderella was all alone with her mop and her shattered dreams.
Oh, I wish I could go to the ball.
What was that you just said?
Who are you?
Oh, why, I am your fairy godmother, of course. Now, what was that I just heard you say?
Just that I wanted to go to the ball, but it's too late now. I have no way to get there.
Where is your positive thinking?
I don't know. Can you find it?
It's that. It's never too late for a little magic.
The fairy godmother waved her wand, changing a pumpkin into a beautiful coach, and 2 mices into horses.
It's difficult to read when you're a fairy godmother. I'm sorry I stepped on your line.
Yes, don't do it again. I'm the narrator. I'm in charge.
We'll fix it in post.
This is post.
There you are. Now you may go to the ball.
But fairy godmother, aren't you forgetting something? My dress.
Oh, heavens, you're naked. Oh, no. I'm sorry. That was my imagination.
Those mushrooms you had for lunch.
It was a very small toadstool. Anyway, you can't go looking like that.
And with another wave of her wand, she changed Cinderella's rags into a beautiful ball gown. And on her tiny feet, there were lovely glass slippers.
But remember, you need to be home by midnight when the magic completely stops.
Doesn't it always?
And so Cinderella left for the ball in her coach. At the palace, the party was in progress.
Oh my gosh, this is so cool. Oh, the best party ever.
I threw a ball the other day.
Oh, thank you. You look great too. And so, everyone seemed to be having a merry time. Everyone but the prince.
You're not excited, Your Highness. This may be the day you find your... the day you find your future wife and our future queen.
Oh, I doubt that fantasy. Well, some of this money and jewels and gold is too heavy for my pockets. Never have I seen a woman in this kingdom who was as fair and as beautiful as the woman of my dreams.
Perhaps this will change
a great big one?
He had just about given up when the doors opened and Cinderella arrived. Everyone at the party took notice.
Who is that girl?
Cinderella!
She is stunning! Absolutely beautiful!
I have never seen her or anyone like her before.
She can't be from around here.
Oh, why? Why do you say that?
Well, let's take a look. She's wearing glass slippers.
Those are definitely from another kingdom.
But the prince didn't care. No, he didn't care at all. He was immediately smitten with the stranger.
I'm smitten.
My lucky day.
Forgot my smittens. May I have this dance with you?
I would be honored, Your Majesty.
The dance floor cleared as the two whirled around it. Cinderella's stepmother and stepsisters watched and sneered.
Who is that girl? I recognize her from Rick's place.
She looks familiar, but I can't place a face. I'm too drunk.
He's using up all the prince's time. He's supposed to be mine.
How the prince and Cinderella were inseparable, right up to the minute when the clock struck 12.
Bong.
Bong,
Bong.
bong,
Bong bong.
bong, bong.
Dang, 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 dang.
Oh no! It's midnight. I must go.
You should try wearing pants.
You can't. You practically just got here and I don't even know your name.
I'm sorry. I must. Farewell.
He could do nothing to stop her. In moments, she was out the door and gone.
Vanish him! Vanish him! Vanish him! You must find her. She was the one. I'm sure of it. Did anyone get her name?
No one, your majestic largeness.
To have found true love and lost her. Vanish him, let me beat you. I feel better now.
So do I. Oh, they grow up so fast.
Eventually I'll get this line out as the knave. Excuse me, Your Highness.
Do not disturb His Highness, knave. Can you not see he is going for an award in this production? No, he is grieving.
I noticed you were going for one yourself with that speech. Well, I'm very sorry. I just thought he'd want to know that woman he was dancing with all night. When she left, she dropped this and this and this.
What for glass slippers?
You have an iron lung?
We will take this shoe and try it on every available maiden for miles around.
Oh, boy.
The woman this shoe fits is the woman I shall make my bride.
Oh, it's going to be...
So, the next day, the prince and his two heralds scoured the kingdom to find his beloved. And Herald 1 said,
Who's Herald 1?
try this shoe on, I'll be Herald 1.
Oh, I'm Herald 1.
Too late, you can be
Try
Herald
this
2.
shoe on, would ya?
Excuse me, you there? Try this shoe on.
But they had almost given up when they arrived at the home of the evil stepsisters.
Mother, the prince is here.
I'm a petite size 12. I'm sure the shoe will fit.
Petite my red. Never mind.
I don't care which one of you it fits. Just make sure it's one of you or I'm gonna start chopping off toes. Or have I read ahead?
Yeah, I think you're in the right place, mommy.
Ladies, we are here to find a woman whose foot-fits this glass slippers.
Who will try on the shoe first? You, that would be me, ugly sister number one.
No, me! Ugly sister number 2!
Lord, it's too small. I shouldn't have had all that salt pork last night.
I'll have what he's having! It's small for me, too!
Small, you can barely get your toe in. Oh, no luck, Your Highness. So sorry. That was line 1 for Harold.
No. Harold 1, Harold 2, no luck, no luck. I'm grieving, I'm sad. Farrington, let me beat you again. Wait. There's a woman in the corner there. What about her?
Cinderella? Excuse me. Cinderella? Oh, it couldn't possibly fit her. She's nobody. You're a prince. Have you seen me?
Well, she has feet, and I'm going to try this shoe on at least one of them.
Wait, Harold. I shall do this one.
So the prince knelt down and slipped the shoe on Cinderella. Of course, it fit perfectly.
You are, in fact, the one for me.
And you for me.
Oh.
Go get a room, you.
And so, Cinderella and the Prince Ugly were married. And the evil stepmother and the ugly stepsisters had to learn to do things for themselves.
Oh, dear Mother. I really don't want to scrub floors anymore. I'm going back to the Blue Parrot right now.
And I don't do windows.
Shut up and keep washing. Or scrubbing, or whatever it is you're doing. Do my toes. I don't care. Shut up.
All right, honey.
Everyone lived happily ever after, except them.
Downstairs after this in the WCA signing area, which is located between the dealer's room and the artist alley, and most of them will be down there signing autographs right after we can get down there. Thank you very much.
And I have signed autograph from Frank Welker, Dan Gilbazan, and me. Frank never goes to conventions. I got